The NBA is going through a moment that many believe to be the silent end of one of the most defining eras in modern basketball. The Golden State Warriors, responsible for redefining the way the game is played and for inspiring a generation of players and fans, are now living at a turning point. It is not just the natural wear and tear of a dynasty, but the feeling that something deep and irreversible is happening behind the scenes. What once seemed like just an off-season, with small adjustments, has taken on dramatic proportions. The signs are everywhere, and the fans can feel the change of atmosphere in their skin. The images from the last season still echo in the memory of the supporters. June 2025 brought a painful picture: exhausted athletes, a rarefied energy inside the Chase Center, and a suffocating uncertainty about what was to come. Even without an official farewell, the collective perception was that a page had been turned, and when the news no one wanted to hear was confirmed, the blow was even heavier. Kevin Durant, one of the great pillars of the Golden Peak, would not return. He, who had symbolized the power of a team that once looked unbeatable, chose to follow a new path, wearing the jersey of the Houston Rockets. What until then was treated as mere speculation quickly became reality. Durant, who had already passed through the Phoenix Suns and experienced the frustrations of a roster that failed to find the expected chemistry, saw in the Rockets the chance to once again be the epicenter of a reconstruction. His departure was not just a sporting decision, but also a kind of closure. For Golden State, it became clear that the dream of reuniting once more the icons who defined a generation would not come true. It was time to look forward, even if the pain of losing one of the great names was inevitable. On the Phoenix side, the separation also symbolized a bitter restart. The project that had been born as a promise of titles dissolved under pressure, poor results, and the need to plan the future more sustainably. The choice was clear: bet on youth, the draft, and patience. For Houston, however, Durant's arrival represented boldness. The franchise saw in the star not only talent, but also leadership and enough experience to speed up a process that could otherwise take years. But the script took an even more surprising turn when new rumors began to circulate strongly. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee Bucks' superstar, began to be cited as the target of a multi-team operation that could completely change the balance of the NBA. Known for his physical explosion, versatility, and insatiable hunger to win, Giannis is the kind of athlete who turns any team into a title contender. And the strongest rumor was that he could land precisely in San Francisco to wear the colors of the Golden State Warriors. The plan was bold and risky. 4 teams involved, high-value assets moving back and forth, draft picks weighing in the balance, and decisions that would affect the future of several franchises. The Warriors, to get the Greek, would have to give up valuable pieces, not only in terms of talent, but also of identity. The Lakers would receive experienced rotation players. The Dallas Mavericks would send strategic assets to meet the operation's demands. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Bucks would end up with a combination of promising youngsters, established athletes, and multiple first-round picks. It was, in practice, all or nothing. For Golden State's front office, the reasoning was straightforward. Stephen Curry's window is closing. The point guard, the franchise's biggest symbol, already feels the weight of age and the accumulation of seasons. Each passing year is an opportunity that will not return. Building a core with Giannis and still adding a third big name, kept secret until now, would be an almost desperate but also brilliant move in the attempt to prolong the glow of this dynasty. The impact of a trade of this magnitude goes far beyond the technical aspect. It is symbolic. It would mean rewriting the ending of a story rather than insisting on reviving a past that will not return. The stakes are high. Consolidate the legacy once and for all, or accelerate a painful end. Within the NBA, few moves have ever had such transformative potential, especially because it is not just about adding one more star, but about altering the entire perception rivals, fans, and analysts have of the team. Behind the scenes, indications are that negotiations are advanced. Salary adjustments, compensation in picks, and secondary trades are being discussed so that everything fits within the league's rules. Executives speaking off the record confirmed that Milwaukee would receive in return 2 youngsters with all-star potential, 3 first-round picks, and veterans ready to contribute immediately. The Lakers and Mavericks, acting as linking pieces, would solve their own roster gaps without compromising their future too heavily. At Golden State, the calculation is cold. Risk tomorrow in order to try to win today. Giannis's arrival would change the team's style, demanding tactical adjustments and role redefinitions. At the same time, it would open doors to new offensive and defensive possibilities. The fast and spaced game that made the franchise famous could be blended with the Greeks' brutal force in the paint, creating a hybrid version capable of dictating the pace against any opponent. But along with the excitement comes fear. Part of the fan base fears the loss of depth, the sacrifice of young talent, and the possibility of repeating mistakes made by other super teams that failed in trying to assemble great stars. The ghost of the Brooklyn Nets, who brought together Durant, Harden, and Irving without winning the title, is cited as a constant warning. The risk of blowing up a project through excessive ambition is very real. Despite the concerns, there is a consensus that the arrival of Giannis would not only be a sporting reinforcement, but also a powerful message. It would be the confirmation that Golden State does not intend to bow out in silence, but rather to fight until the last breath for glory. For many within the organization, this move is almost an imperative. Either the team reinvents itself now, or it risks becoming nothing more than a nostalgic memory of a golden era. From a technical point of view, Giannis's adaptation would demand creativity from the coaching staff. Steve Kerr would have to redesign systems, rethink rotations, and find the balance between the team's dynamic style and the Greek star's physicality. It is not just a matter of fitting in a new player, but of reconstructing the very logic of the game. Even so, the prospect of having Curry, Giannis, and a third elite piece is far too tempting to ignore. The mere image of this trio already sends shivers down rivals' spines and sparks heated debates in the sports media. And it doesn't stop there. Sources close to the talks point out that this third name would be an athlete with a history of starring in playoffs, someone accustomed to carrying responsibilities in decisive moments. Still without public confirmation, the expectation is that his identity will only be revealed once the final adjustments of the negotiation are completed. If confirmed, the Warriors would not only have an impactful signing, but the formation of a super team capable of immediately transforming the competitive landscape of the league. The timetable for the talks is tight. The intention is to resolve everything before the official start of training camp, giving enough time for the new reinforcements to absorb the system and build chemistry with the veterans. Experience shows that the preseason can be decisive in determining whether a star-studded team becomes a legitimate title contender or just a collection of disconnected talents. For this reason, the urgency in the negotiations is understandable. Meanwhile, the specialized media is already projecting scenarios. Some analysts believe that the new Golden State would be the immediate favorite for the title, even surpassing the current champions. Others, however, stress the need for caution, reminding that the success of a roster does not depend solely on raw talent, but also on discipline, sacrifice, and the ability to adapt. Balancing egos and clearly defining roles will be the coaching staff's greatest challenge. And it is precisely at this point that the greatest uncertainties arise. Curry, still the face of the franchise, will have to share the spotlight with a force the size of Giannis. How will this affect the internal dynamics? Will the natural hierarchy withstand the pressure? And how will the locker room react to the departure of promising youngsters, sacrificed in the name of a bet on the present? These are questions that echo among fans and even within the organization's own corridors. However, there is one factor that cannot be ignored. The very history of the Golden State Warriors is marked by bold decisions. From the moment the franchise chose to embrace a revolutionary style based on constant movement, spacing, and long-distance shooting, the team has always been guided by the courage to take risks. This new attempt at reinvention is, in a way, the continuation of that spirit. Taking risks is part of the franchise's identity. While the possible arrival of Giannis makes headlines, another storyline is beginning to take shape in parallel, and promises to add even more drama to the narrative. A name from Southeast Asia is emerging as a piece that could transform not only the technical side of the team, but also the Warriors' cultural and commercial appeal. A young 2.18 center with a journey marked by perseverance and resilience is on the board's radar. This athlete, already known for his potential and for his symbolism off the court, represents more than statistics. He carries with him the dream of millions of fans from his nation, who see in him the chance to connect with the NBA in an unprecedented way. His possible arrival in San Francisco would be a milestone. After all, the Bay Area is home to one of the largest Filipino communities in the world, and seeing a compatriot defend the Warriors' colors would have an incalculable emotional impact. Technically, his presence in the paint could fill a long-standing gap in the team. The Warriors, despite their excellence on the perimeter, have always struggled when facing more physical teams with dominant centers. The young Asian offers rebounds, rim protection, and even the rare ability to space the floor with mid-range shooting. This versatility fits perfectly into the modern NBA concept, where each player needs to contribute in multiple roles. But what really sets him apart is his story. From a very young age, he left his homeland to pursue a dream that seemed impossible. He went through foreign leagues, endured loneliness, cultural shock, and constant doubts. In Australia, he began to shape his professional identity. In Japan, he established himself as one of his team's defensive pillars and gained international recognition. At every step, he demonstrated not only technical evolution, but also resilience and maturity beyond his age. Today, on the verge of reaching the NBA, he symbolizes not only the perseverance of an individual, but also the pride of an entire nation. The possibility of seeing him wear the Warriors jersey sparks an enthusiasm that transcends sport. It would be the perfect union of sporting strategy, cultural impact, and market opportunity. It is no exaggeration to say that his arrival could open unprecedented commercial and media doors for the franchise and for the league itself. The impact of the arrival of this Asian center, should it materialize, cannot be measured only in numbers or statistics. It would be a move capable of redefining the identity of the Golden State Warriors before the global community. The franchise, which was once synonymous with on-court innovation, would also become a symbol of representation off it. In a world where sport increasingly blends with culture, market, and identity, having a player who carries the weight and pride of millions of fans would be unprecedented. The reception in San Francisco would certainly be warm. The Bay Area is known for its cultural diversity and for welcoming immigrants from different parts of the world. The presence of a Filipino idol would further strengthen this connection, turning every game into a cultural event. Shirts bearing his name would become items of national pride. Children and young people who today follow the NBA from afar would feel represented, reinforcing an emotional bond with the team. From a technical standpoint, his addition would also be strategic. The Warriors need someone who commands respect in the paint, both defensively and offensively. The team already dominates the perimeter game, but on several occasions has struggled without a reliable physical presence to fight for decisive rebounds or to block stronger opponents. With him, that scenario would change radically. His height and wingspan would bring balance to the team's fast, spaced-out style, adding consistency in battles against teams like the Nuggets or Clippers who make good use of their inside game. The tactical fit seems natural. Imagine a play where Curry draws the defense to the perimeter, Giannis cuts inside with all his explosive power, and the young center creates space to receive a pass in the middle of the paint or even positions himself for a mid-range shot. That combination would create multiple layers of attack, keeping opponents constantly on alert. And when it comes to defense, the story becomes even more interesting. Giannis, with his versatility, and the Asian center, with his rim protection, could form a wall that would be very difficult to overcome. Moreover, the psychological factor would be devastating for rivals. It is not just about facing individual talents, but about dealing with the pressure of confronting a roster that unites refined technique, imposing physicality, and a powerful narrative. Many players step onto the court already mentally beaten when they know they are facing not only great athletes, but also stories that carry passion, representation, and cultural weight. The Golden State Warriors in this new format would become a colossus both inside and beyond the four lines. The crucial point, however, remains the balance between present and future. Some argue that sacrificing promising youngsters and draft picks in the name of urgency could be costly in the years ahead. That is the great question dividing the fan base. On one side are those who believe the time to win is now, before Curry's window closes. On the other, those who see the need to keep a young core capable of sustaining the franchise once the current stars retire. The front office seems inclined to bet everything on the present. The vision is clear. The Warriors cannot afford to waste Curry's last years at the top level. This is the chance to add one or two more titles to the shelf and cement a legacy that is already considered legendary. This aggressive stance is risky, but it matches the identity of an organization that has never settled for mediocrity. Meanwhile, the possible arrival of the young Asian center opens new perspectives. Even as part of a win-now strategy, he still brings youth and the room for growth needed to provide longevity to the project. In other words, he could be the bridge between two generations, the link connecting the era of Curry and Giannis with a future still under construction. This duality of immediate impact and long-term projection is what makes his signing so strategic. Another relevant aspect is the commercial one. The NBA has for years invested heavily in international expansion, especially in emerging Asian markets. The arrival of a Filipino talent to the Warriors would not only increase the franchise's fan base, but also broaden the visibility of the league itself. Games broadcast at adapted times, licensed products, new marketing partnerships, and local broadcast deals would be natural consequences. The potential for financial growth is as great as the sporting one. Yet behind all this euphoria, the inevitable doubt remains. Could it all go wrong? What if the chemistry never clicks? What if the roster sacrifices leave the team without options when fatigue sets in? What if the investment in stars proves too costly and doesn't deliver titles? Basketball has shown time and again that assembling names does not guarantee trophies. The balance between talent, discipline, and collective spirit continues to be the magic formula separating champions from almost champion. What is at stake is not just the arrival of a star or a promising young talent. It is the complete redefinition of the destiny of one of the NBA's greatest dynasties. The Golden State Warriors are at a point where every decision could mean eternal glory or a melancholy end. The prospect of seeing Giannis Antetokounmpo share the court with Stephen Curry, combined with the impact of an Asian giant representing millions of fans, creates a narrative that transcends sport. It is emotion, strategy, risk, and hope gathered into a single point in history. Now, it only remains to wait and see if the negotiations move off paper and if this new chapter will indeed be written on the court. One thing, however, is certain. Whatever the outcome, the coming months promise to stir not only the Warriors fan base, but the entire basketball world. We are on the verge of a possible turning point that could forever alter the balance of the league and reignite the flame of a franchise that marked a generation. And if you've made it this far, it is because you too feel this passion pulsing. So don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any updates on what could be the biggest revolution of the Golden State Warriors this decade.